गजाननं भूतगणादिसेवितं कपित्तजम्बोफलसारभक्षितम् उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम् शदाननां कुङ्कुमरक्तवर्णं महामतिं दिव्यामयूरवाहनं रुद्रस्य सोनुं सुरसैन्यनाथं गुहं सदाहं शरणं प्रपद्ये या कुन्दन्तु तुषारहालधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्राभृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मम पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाध्यापः ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्ते निष्प्रम्भजाय शान्ताय श्रीशिवानन्दाय ते नमः श्रीविष्णुदेवानन्दाय ते नमः ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणे नमोस्तुते शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पीस 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 ॐ बोल सतगुरु शिवानंद महाराज की जय बोल श्री विष्णुदेवान महाराज की जय Good evening. Welcome to this very important workshop tonight to talk on the New Year resolutions, New Year spiritual resolutions, and the resolutions that really don't fail. So let's see what happens. The first question is, are you ready for the new beginning for the 2017? I believe you are, and of course you are. Now, I will use some of the words of Swami Shivananda just to introduce this subject of the importance of a new beginning. So, the advent of a new year is always considered to be a very joyful occasion. Yeah, because during this time, our hope and enthusiasms are enkindled again. And so, this is normally happening because of the long we could say an age-long association of the ideas that the New Year time has a very special meaning for us and a special potency in it that we're trying to make use of. So for all beginnings, for fresh endeavors, and for new resolves, we're hoping that this new year will bring all of that. Okay, so we're basically turning a new leaf, and we will see in a minute whether that always happens or not, and why sometimes turning a new leaf is a harder thing to make than to do than is it appears to. We'll see all of that. So it is a very special time indeed, and we must make full use of this psychological moment. Everybody's looking forward to a new beginning, at least on the night entering into the new year. So, New Year resolutions represents the seeds of self-transformation. The reason why I say seeds is that perhaps all of our transformation is not going to uh, take place in an instant, even within the span of 365 days. All change does take much slower than we would like it to be. But nevertheless, seeds are like seeds of the grains. They never seem to lose their potency if they're kept in a proper place. So these seeds that we sow in our minds, in our subconscious minds, sit there until um, a good occasion arises when the seeds can start to sprout. So even if all of our intentions do not necessarily uh, bear fruits within the year, still these seeds are important for the following year and another year and another year. Therefore, never lose your hope that the actually New Year resolutions do not work. It's not true at all. Okay, so another important thing is that uh, taking some resolutions and mastering your willpower is a good way of just becoming in charge of your life and becoming the master of your destiny. And you will see we will have a little practical some ideas how to go about this. So the New Year resolutions are the seeds, and they are also very powerful tools for of self-empowerment. In this world, we're all more or less alone. And when it comes to our growth, emotionally, psychologically, or spiritually, most of the work needs to be done by us. We can receive inspiration from others, we can receive the ideas, but the work, which is the work of the will, has to be done by all of us. So anyway, we all feel that the new year carries a wonderful potential, and let us work for it. We must always continue to keep our dreams alive and our intentions burning with enthusiasm, because without a dream, without an intention, a human life is a bare waste. So I like to remind people, even though many of us have heard of New Year resolutions many times over, and they have been discussed in millions of different ways, we still must make new resolutions, and we have to try again, again, again. Now, wherever whenever we can set up these resolutions, what's going to take place is that we will obviously want to have resolutions in a direction of better health and greater emotional mental resilience and a greater patience and many other things. So all these things just need to be structured in a particular way. So setting up a New Year resolutions, in fact, and carry them requires a very important thing. It requires a good method. Now, I would like to mention a few reasons why sometimes it seems and appears that the New Year resolutions don't work. One is that sometimes we want to change, but really underneath, deep underneath, we don't. Therefore, we have to be clear on whether we really want to change a particular part of our being or particular part of our acting or not. So that's the first thing. Sometimes, of course, we lack understanding of what that particular change bring to us or mean to us. How would it affect our lives? So also, the resolutions naturally do not always bring fruits because of the lack of the will. Perhaps this will was trapped in some other things, in some kind of pleasures or whatever. So the will needs to be freed up. And the way to do this is to truly go with New Year resolutions. Um, Often it is really the lack of the method, I would say, that people do not understand how exactly to go about changing, the habits and basically improving the state of life. And another thing is that there may be a change, and in fact, you'll be surprised that there's uh, there's a fear of change. You'll be surprised to know that the fear of change is much deeper within all of us than again it appears to be, or perhaps we don't even know that it's there. So this fear needs to be also overcome through this particular method. Now, in truth, we know what we'd like to become, and we know what is good for us. But most of the time we have excuses, and it seems that this old self is trying to continue to survive and keep on doing what it has been doing. So to affect the change, you need the right method, you need persistence, and also you need vigilance. Um, so those are the important things. Naturally, uh, within us, there are two aspects of our mind. We could say one which is more like superficial and one which is deeper. The deeper mind is resistance to change. So anyway, we know that it's not easy to change, but we'll do our best to affect the change in the next 365 days very, very soon. Another problem that people have is that they simply try to bite more than they can chew. It's like, going to a gym and trying to lift, a good 150 pounds, and let's say you've never even lifted 30 or 40, that will naturally break you. And this is probably one of the main faults in the way how these resolutions are structured. So you need to resolve to bring about the change that is possible, that you have the strength for, and then you have the will for. Therefore, we don't want to change, all of a sudden we want to become a new person. That's not going to be obviously work. So also some people don't seem to like the commitments. It's very nice to be enthusiastic about wanting something new, but you also need to know how to maintain a commitment. And that commitment will provide a certain stability. The stability doesn't mean immobility. We need to kind of grow around what we're trying to affect, and there will be a process of learning as we try to apply our resolutions. Of course, majority of people, on another hand, do not believe in small changes. And since the nature changes slowly, it allows a small increments of change or small increments of willpower. So this is what represents the potential in the hands of any spiritual aspirant. It is the idea that if you want to do something good, you can do it for at least one moment, at least 1 minute. And this way you will generate a force. And then you're going to reinforce that particular force by repetition, by reapplying the method. So sometimes we may be able to only do a minute of something that we have not done before, or 2 minutes, until we build our strength with these practices. Of course, we live in an instant society, and this is part of the problem also. Um, we have everything moving very fast. People don't have time for anything. You have instant coffee, you have instant friendships, you have instant successes. Everything has to be instant. Similarly, spiritual path has to be instantly um, satisfying, and we should be growing in a very, very deep ways. However, that doesn't really work. We know that. There's a famous story of a bamboo, how the bamboo grows. And it is said that when the seed of a bamboo is put in the soil, it doesn't take, it takes almost 2 years before the seed actually sprouts. And then in the third year, within the 6 months, that sprout grows up to 30 feet, or maybe 90 feet, sorry, it's 30 yards or meters. So this is quite an amazing. So the question, of course, arises is whether this bamboo uh, uh, came with the seed. Did the seed immediately kind of sprout, or did it wait until it sprouted? Well, we know the answer. So similarly, our own progress depends on many things, and sometimes it may not be visible. And yet, that doesn't mean that you're not making any progress. The psychological progress, the progress within your, cultivation of virtues and eradication of any kind of weaknesses. It's a slow process, and because of that, it is hard to also know where exactly we have grown stronger and purer and better. However, again, if you're patient, if you're vigilant, and if you also keep a diary, which is necessary for these resolutions, you'll find that you will see some pretty quick growth. So it's considered that all beginnings have or carry an unimaginable potential. It's like, it is only in the present moment that the power of the spirit, or the power of the consciousness within us manifests fully. So this is where we need to put all our focus. Our life, our day consists of infinite number of present moments. Therefore, it consists of infinite number of beginnings. Every moment of your life, you make a choice. And unfortunately, we are not even aware of the power of the choice because we do not have a reflective state of mind enough to say, okay, is this the way I want to go? Is this the action I want to do? Therefore, some uh, part of us stopping and also taking a moment to reflect is necessary when we try to make a step forward. Okay, so we have this wonderful power choice that is available to us, and we must utilize it in the year that is coming now. Okay, so what we're going to do in this year, we're going to try to work on several things, and one is to try to increase our vibratory level. The vibratory level of our mind is an essential practice that should be part of our spiritual resolutions. And so instead of improving our, you know, we should try to improve our mind or our state of being rather than our, let's say, our possessions. We should try to increase our experience, our wisdom, rather than the number of books that we have. So this way we focus more on a quality rather than a quantity. So a couple of suggestions before we go into any deeper analysis of what we need to do is to remember that the spiritual path requires some kind of a monitoring, and this needs to be done with the help of what we call a spiritual diary. So when you make the resolutions to say, let's say I want to wake up at this time, I want to do this and I want to do that, you need to create a diary on the basis of these resolutions so that you can monitor your practice. This diary, you can send it to your teacher. You can send it to, if you have one. If not, you can perhaps once a month or even more than that, sit with your friend or your partner. Let's say you two people are keeping resolutions, and now you want to have some feedback. So the best way to do this is to spend some time together and then discuss all the points and also your experiences in regards to this keeping of the resolutions. Your knowledge, your spiritual knowledge, your psychological knowledge will grow tremendously by keeping this diary, and also by having a time to discuss with somebody that, or perhaps to even just look at it yourself. The reason why the diary is so important is, first of all, that our mind is a very tricky little instrument. It has a power of twisting in a way, or making the information or the truth the way that we feel about this. So we're not concentrating on the truth, we're concentrating on our interpretation of the truth. So the mind has an inherent ability to exaggerate or minimize depending on what it really feels like in relation to a particular quality. So because of that, what we need to do is to understand that the purpose of a diary is to present the truth of our practice. Now, that doesn't mean in any way that we must use these resolutions in the diary in a way to kind of beat ourselves on the head and to feel really bad about how we did it or what we didn't do. Regardless whether you ever feel bad or, about what you may have done wrong, nevertheless, that's already recorded. You don't need to do anything about this. Your next focus should be what you can improve and what can be done about this. Therefore, dwelling on negative mistakes is not what we encourage. So what we want to say is that this diary, in a way, operates with what we may call, together with your sattvic mind. And the sattvic mind is the kind of a mind that really knows the truth, and it also has compassion. So when you're observing yourself, you need to learn to do this with compassion and with patience. And this really may be more difficult than we think, but it is the part of it. When the anger comes towards oneself, when there's a lack of self-acceptance, those things are not part of our spiritual diary. We don't want that in it. So, there's uh, our mind is governed by the three gunas, or three qualities of nature. So there's a resistance in us. There's a tendency to uh, thinking lowly thoughts, low thoughts, to think, negative feelings, to be judgmental, to be critical. This is all part of tamas. Fear of change, uh, a deep resistance to a move. We have it from time to time. And then we have rajas, which is, of course, the type of a mind that is ready to run around and jump on any pleasure or, whatever we want to do out of greed or any kind of emotion like that. That's rajas. And the sattva guna, which is very it's the spiritual quality really within us. It's the reflection of who we really are. It doesn't manifest frequently in us, unfortunately. And because we're most of the day uh, at the mercy of these two gunas of rajas and tamas, we invoke the help of our teacher. In this case, this is a spiritual diary that shows us exactly what we can work with and what we should work with. The purpose of a spiritual diary is to really work with things that you're not efficient at and that perhaps you have difficulties with. So to have a spiritual diary that is focused on good things and what you can do is also good, since you need to increase the positive qualities. But the idea of a spiritual diary is to really list in it and work with is what you're not good at. So the very idea of a spiritual diary is to begin with something that you're not in possession of. Let's say you're not in a possession of discipline in relation to some practices. Maybe you don't really wake up in the morning. Maybe you don't meditate, or maybe your meditation or even the habit of waking up fluctuates, which is in the case of most of us. So with this diary, we can make small adjustments. For example, if I know I went to sleep 15 minutes late tonight, I can then decide that I will be 15 minutes earlier tonight in bed. And there will be a little decision made, a little vow, and you will see that if had I not made it, I would have probably not done it or not even remembered it. So that's the secret, is to stay committed to your resolutions, whatever that you're going to make. And remember the two things. When you're in a good mood, and we all know what it means in terms of our practice, you promise yourself that you will keep walking in a direction that you've chosen to walk in, which is your spiritual practices, which is your meditation, whatever it is. And of course, you in your mind you don't think of the obstacles and you kind of have overcome them. However, a few days later, what may happen, and this is actually the reason why people give up their resolutions, is because they don't recognize there's this other mind, there's this other nature that is hugely resistant to, to a good change. But what we must not do is follow that mind, because that mind also will come and go. It will be there for a little while and then will be going. So either after a few days we have this mind coming in, or we simply, maybe we had some disappointment or failure. Then what happens, you find yourself in a totally different state of mind, and you don't even remember that you made these resolutions. Now, of course, what we need to do is to keep on the path. This is the hardest thing, because most people think that sticking to the path means the path should be comfortable, should be pleasant, and everything should be fine. Okay, so um, this is the first thing. Now, what we're going to also mention is that may be very useful for all of us is to make a commitment that this year we um, say goodbye to fear. I'm going straight to the point. If there's anything that really saps our life force and destroys our positivity, enthusiasm, and hope, it is fear. Fear of all kinds. Fear in the form of worries, fear in the form of anticipations. Doesn't need to be fear like the way we think of fear. It could be just a feeling of being unsettled and kind of thinking that something may come our way that we're really not ready for. So make a commitment, if I may suggest, is to work with this fear calmly and do not let even the smallest of the reaction of your lower mind, your subconscious mind, come into play and deflect you from your path or from your decision to move in a positive direction. So don't let little fears, at least the little ones you start with, frighten you. And you need to learn what we Swami Shivananda says, to command your own spirit, which is called in Sanskrit Atma Bal, the willpower. Another suggestion I will make is that you think of this. It's very important, but is to think of yourself not feeling a victim. I'm perhaps you may not know that, but there is certainly a group of people, at least, or at least one person in your life that you consider to be responsible for what you may have suffered, or perhaps where you arrived at and where you're now. So what I suggest, you write a little list of a few people, and kind of in one breath just say, okay, I forgive you all, and I take my life into my hands, and I'm letting go of this idea that I'm a victim or the result of being victimized by somebody, and I'm a person that I've made myself into who I am, and I'm going to continue to make myself in who I want to be. I think this is extremely, extremely important, because if you let go of this idea of being a victim, there will be less bullies attracted to you, if I may say that, because a victim and a bully generally live together, sometimes in the same room, if not in the same house. So they they kind of create one another. So the situations such as complaining about the others or the situations themselves is the result also of this tamasic will that is kind of entered into us. And the words, the idea of a victim may never even be heard. You may not be able to recognize it. It is not always audible, and yet it truly poisons our life. So I think this would be a wonderful thing to do. So this way, the idea of not being a victim anymore goes along with the practice of forgiveness. And so remember to try to forget your old hurts and all things of the past. The best way to do is to not talk about them, not try to even, show your own humility or so-called humility by putting yourself down in front of God. Yeah, sometimes we say, well, I'm too bad and I've done this and I shouldn't have done that, you know. So this is important. The true humility doesn't mean continuously condemning oneself. It really just means rising to the light, to the opportunity, and that's kind of all we need to do. We need to have this important approach and attitude in our life that we're going to work with whatever it is, but we're going to let go of all those people that we made into prisoners of our life, and we're going to let go of it. So the other thing is, try to make use of your mistakes. This is important. Your mistakes are the best teachers. There is, in fact, no better teacher than something that made you suffer and lose something and break something and whatever. So these experiences are valuable. And of course, also make use of the common mistakes that you daily make for your increasing of your power of self-reflection in order to make better resolutions and move in a other, other better direction. So that's the secret. Then another aspect of new resolutions would be to include in this year um, also other people. That you're gonna work on building other people in your life as well as yourself. So let your resolutions include others, and also, very importantly, let your resolutions this year include the earth itself or herself, and any kind of efforts that you can make to bring more harmony into this, suffering planet Earth that we see nowadays. I'm talking about the climatic changes and all kinds of things. This should be there should be resolutions made in regards to our Earth, in regards to nature, and also in regards to our connection with nature. So I would suggest that we spend more and more time in nature itself, if possible, and to try to simplify our lives because our lives are totally overburdened by so many things. So this could be a perfect, few principles that you may think of before you even start with your resolutions. Now, when you work with your mind, just a couple of things to mention. First of all, uh, you have to learn to work with the mind with more skill. So let that be part of your resolution. I'm going to work with more tact and more skill with my mind. You can't just eradicate something all of a sudden. And so also you cannot just create another perfect, wonderful virtue in yourself. So if you use the force, the mind will become very turbulent. And if you're just approaching it gently, you will find that this will be very, very helpful. Now, another important thing is that we must learn to interrupt the noisy thoughts. Okay, so this is a part of the resolutions also. Often in our minds, there's a lot of disorderly and noisy kind of thoughts, and we need to learn to let go of them. So one thing that was coming to my mind today, I was thinking how obsessed we're with the process of thinking to begin with. We we believe that we must think to find all the solutions. I'm not saying you shouldn't think, but there's something that is called the overthinking. And I'm trying to emphasize the point that in order to get better results in carrying out your practical resolutions, try first of all to interrupt this noisy and disorderly flow of thoughts. And the second thing is to try to not think too much. Doing is better, being is better, but thinking is too much. We think too much. Okay, so I would say try to um, try to work harder this year on gaining your own freedom. Freedom means control over one's mind. So that's all freedom that we have and all freedom that we can possibly develop. Any other form of freedom is really a relatively, it could be important, but it's relatively unimportant in terms of spiritual work. The other thing is, guard yourself also from temptation to engage yourself, and this is pretty much continuously with all unnecessary thoughts. You have to start to use your power of choice and question the arising of different thoughts. And if the thoughts have no relevance to changing your vibratory level, if I may say, or becoming more positive or practical in any sense, try to drop them. As I said, we are continuously involved with thoughts and we should learn to not do that anymore. Unnecessary thoughts means truly a pure wastage of energy and try to commit to eradicate them. So the vibratory level that I mentioned several times is Swami Vishnu's words that he used to use for adopting different yogic practices in order to change our vibration. See, the mind is the vibration in a sense. It's made up of different waves of thoughts, and our mind is influenced by things that we think within us, and it's also influenced by naturally by the outside contact with the objects and the objects of desires. So therefore, there's a tendency to the mind that it drops its vibration sometimes unnoticeably, such as if you're reading, for example, the internet news, and all of a sudden that hope that you had, that inspiration that you generated, even from your morning practice, all of a sudden is weakened and there's more negative thoughts. So this is what I would say, bringing um, practices in, so and also keeping the diary that will allow you to see if that vibratory level of thought is kept at the desired level. Okay, so now we're going to actually really begin with our little resolutions and what I mean. There's an opinion that the year is a living entity and then it carries all kinds of things. For example, before we enter into the new year, we should be observing and thinking uh, about the old year and see what kind of experiences the old year has brought to us. So that would be one part of the exercise which I call a peek into the old year. See, before we start setting up our resolutions, we should have some understanding of how we lived last year. Okay, so you take a kind of a stock, and perhaps the best way to do this is to, if you have an hour and you sit down by yourself with a pen and you write down, like, okay, this is my stock taking or peek into the old year, and this is what I would like to find out. So you need to write down your 5 biggest, let's say, challenges that you have, or 5 biggest weaknesses. And of course, we want to think of 5 strengths. We're not going to just dwell on the negative, but we want to figure out the highlights, the high points of the 2016 and also the low points of the 2016. So you can look at that in terms of your own health, in terms of your own spiritual practice. You can think of in terms of your relationships, in terms of your finances, your learning, or anything else. These are the categories you can start to kind of write them down as you look at them. For example, when you think of your 5 biggest weaknesses, the question would come, can you see the ways of reducing or eradicating them? Okay. When we think of the word weakness, we can also think in a positive way because in our weakness lies our strength. So if we're able to make the weakness work for us and utilize it for our own evolution, we realize that this is what we really needed in order to become great at something. I'm not saying cultivate consciously weaknesses, but make them work for you. So that's the way to do them. Now you can think of these weaknesses like this. Are they short term or the long term? And what you can do. So the next thing you have to write down what you think, what strategies can you apply to deal with them. And then within these strategies, there's got to be at least one that agrees with you the most. And then write the 5 steps you think you should do to eradicate them or to reduce them. And then the next thing to do is, as soon as you're able to, make that first step. That's the secret. So anyway, in short, my weaknesses, what can I do to eradicate them? The short to long, and then 5 steps to eradicate them, make first step. Easy. So like this, also with your strengths. You can write down 5 strengths. I'm sure you have them. Sometimes it's hard to kind of think of the positive qualities within us when we're so much aware of what we need to work on. But we should be able to find them out and then think of the ways how you can enhance or improve them or perfect them. The same principle. Write the 5 steps of how you can do it and then make the first step. You will find that the working with weaknesses in a positive way and cultivating the strengths, they will eventually, these two processes will meet into one. They will merge into one. Then think like that. What how many qualities you have, if you have any fears you need to work on, all that represents a good amount of raw material that we need for our analysis now because we want to uh, enter into the new year with some kind of a proper perspective of how we lived in the previous year. Let's say if you think um, of the difficulties or challenges that may arise, you can ask them, are they repeating or are they new? And so you can look at any areas as suggested. Then it kind of in our little meditation, we say goodbye to this year, and then we kind of slowly think of the new year. We kind of in our minds, we welcome the new year. The new year is like a new baby. It's full of potential. It's very pure, and it's like a clean piece of paper, and you're welcome to write on that piece of paper whatever you wish. So remember in this process of self-analysis, two things. One is that what you think of yourself, how you see yourself, um, is the most important. It is not how other people look at you and see you, because you know yourself what you need to work on the most. However, you have to apply the second thing, you have to apply also a lot of compassion. You need to be able to hold yourself as if you were holding somebody who was, in some difficulty. You have to create a space within yourself for yourself. If there is no compassion for oneself, there cannot be compassion for others. It is useless to think that we can be compassionate and loving towards others and we can just keep, putting ourselves down and not care about ourselves. So there's something quite amazing because when you work with yourself like this, you will find that sometimes there's a huge level of dislike or non-acceptance that is very hard to heal. And there's nobody who is going to do the healing for you. You have to do it yourself. So this is part of this little meditation. You kind of have to come together with your own self and shake your hands and say, okay, well, this is where I am at, and I'm ready to move on. I want to do things. So um, this is what we're going to do. And remember, the past is past. It's gone. And you do not really yet hold the future, so no problem. Since we have this present available to us, it is only the present that belongs to us. But unfortunately, we are not in the present. So in order to make the use of the present, you have to be able to become aware and become present. And this will reduce a lot of problems. So you all have a minute or an hour or a day. Okay. So this minute, this hour, this day is what really belongs to you. Nobody can take this away from you. Therefore, the change that you want to see tomorrow, you have to somehow present it today. Never think, oh, tomorrow it will be better. I mean, it's okay to think that way, but it's better to think next minute I will try to be better. If I'm not ready for the next minute, at least in an hour and two, and still this day, I still have many, many opportunities to change whatever I want to change. So that's the first thing. Um, the next thing that comes is since you've written all your highlights and low points of your 2015, that you can now project into the future what you want to become and what to do. I would suggest that you also throughout the year you read some important works such as Swami Shivananda's books about the mind, which is called Mind, Its Mysteries and Control, his book Thought Power, and several books by James Allen, who also I love very much. And this is the idea. Now, obviously, when you look at the New Year resolutions, they're really nothing but sadhanas or spiritual practices, yeah, but more specifically organized as a kind of your new beginning into the year. Okay, so having done your stock taking, now you're ready to write your resolutions and remember again that you're your own healer here and your own teacher. And remember, sometimes let's say I sneak away with a bar of chocolate and nobody has seen me, right? So people may think good things about me. He says, oh, this Swamiji, this person, or whoever he is a wonderful person. But yet, um, this is something in me has recorded this bar of chocolate, and I know, it's not really what I wanted, how I want to be perceived. So this is an important thing. You have to have an honest opinion about yourself that is honest, genuine, objective, but not harsh, not degrading, and not judgmental. This is a little hard, but this is a very important thing. The next thing to do is to um, try to recognize, um, detect any areas in which your time is wasted, because this is a very important part of the resolutions. In what ways do we waste our time? I would say for most of us, it's Facebook and internet, and sometimes, chatting with people and doing things like this. So you can see that the more you become aware of the importance of time, the more you also become aware that this time can never be retrieved, it can never come back. So we need to think of the time in the same way as a person you know, who's something very precious they cannot live without, such as breath. If one is gone, you can't retrieve it back. So the three things that can never be reverted. Yeah, an arrow when it's released, um, a spoken word, so whether it was said, and surely a minute that just was gone. So think of the way, and remember that that's something you have to take care of in the next year to come. So remember now, for your resolution plan, you can think of that the nature really is very happy to take some small installments from you and work with smaller plans. You don't need to have large plans and large resolutions. The key is small victories, small improvements, but as regularly applied as possible. Please don't overload your willpower with too many expectations or too high goals, and that's not going to work. There's other things that are also important when we think of how to apply the resolutions, and one is to strengthen the willpower and the exercises we can do. The other thing is to uh, retrain our subconscious mind by simply suggesting new values and new ways of looking at something. So that way we can work also from deep within us. It's like when you're giving to a plant a good nutrient, so you put inside. For example, if I do not really believe I can succeed at something and I'm at the same time making efforts, there will be a conflict in my mind. So what we're trying to do is to re-educate that subconscious mind by saying, okay, this is the way we should look at it, and we're going to consistently try to look at it in a new way. So you suggest the new ways of approaching the same problems. And then, of course, we need to learn how to keep a diary, and we're going to see what that means now. Okay, so we're moving now into the next stage here. I hope you're all here. So this is an idea of like a little resolution diary type. I'm not using a classic resolution sheet, which was uh, normally given in our organization. But here is something you can think of. Let's say you have to have some resolutions in relation to your habits. When you go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, and so on. So I will wake up not later than a.m. Before you look at these resolutions, try to think of this. You can do your resolutions that are important for you to be, you can call them daily resolutions. Then you can also have what's called the weekly resolutions here. And of course, you can have monthly resolutions. Sometimes we cannot practice everything on a single day. So then we have to figure out in which day we would like to practice a particular thing. And then weekly, of course, and the monthly resolutions. So this is about the wake up. Now also you can think of a sleep. I think maybe for some of you this may not be a problem. If you're living like where I'm living in Manhattan, this is a problem because every day seems to be sleep is kind of going a little later, a little earlier. Then I will for at least, okay, I don't know what it is, but I can say like this. I can do some breathing exercise for this many minutes, posture. So this is your sadhana, means pranayama, asana. I was, for example, doing for myself, I will keep my desk clean. I will take that extra 2 minutes every day and just at least put the books of notebooks properly. Okay, obviously this is written twice, so don't worry. And then I will develop these five qualities, let's say kindness, confidence, truthfulness, patience. So I could pick one day to concentrate on one of these, or perhaps one per week. Also, I would like to study some books or something of importance. I will study the books that they relate to the food or to the spiritual books. So this is the books, and you put maybe one book of each. Then perhaps you can say, I will work this year, I will increase my concentration. And perhaps I will chew better. I will eliminate sugar or coffee or whatever it is. I will think of my choices before I eat. This is a nice one. It's probably missing here. And not eat after, let's say, 8 o'clock. So this is kind of an eating subject. Then you can have some weekly resolutions. Like I have here, I will walk 5 times a week for 15 minutes because sometimes maybe I don't go for a walk. And I will won't complain. On 2 days a week, I will not complain. And I will sing a happy song 3 times a week. And then you can have some general resolutions. So this is kind of a way to do it. You can play with many different questions, and the idea is that you create a diary. This diary that I created, which I'm very happy to send you, it covers 2 weeks, so I don't need to have like many of sheets like this. So that's the possibility. And there's one general resolution: spend less time on computers. Okay, maybe you have something similar to it. Now, you can also have some simple resolutions. For example, I will be more kind and I will be more gentle and I will handle things with more awareness and I will handle things very gently from the moment I open my eyes. I would not use the word I for weak. I would say you. I would be interested in other people. Will be interested in their experiences. So what I suggest also is that you um, create resolutions if you have a partner, or in regards to your partner. If you don't have a partner, you can skip that. But it's nice to make resolutions also to improve your life with other people, at least the ones you live with. So that's the secret now of this. Not really a big secret, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to just conclude now by saying that if you would like some help with this, please email me, and we could set up the resolutions for you. And then as you slowly go through them, and if you need any support, I'll be very happy to do that. Now I'm going to stop recording here. Please stay on the line. I would like to know if you have any questions. So just a second. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadhguru Shivan Maharaj ki Jai. Bol Shri Vishnu.